Hello folks, this is Jim with Science Talk. I have a little bit of news about Jupiter's moon, Europa. Basically, a case is being made that a giant plume of water vapor from Europa has gotten a lot stronger. NASA's Hubble Space Telescope has spotted tantalizing signs of such a plume several times over the past 5 or so years. But the measurements were at the limit of the device's capabilities and insensitivity, and so nothing can be definitive at the moment. However, a new study that NASA's Galileo Jupiter probe, which orbited the planet from 1995 to 2003, also detected a likely Europa plume during a close flyby of the moon in 1997. The newly analyzed Galileo data provides compelling independent evidence that there seems to be a plume on Europa. Now, just a brief word of what's meant by compelling. I've used the word compelling before on another segment, and some people mistakenly took it to mean that I was endorsing the position. No. When a scientist says compelling, it means basically that's interesting, but you haven't proven or shown anything definitive yet. You need to get more definitive data, more definitive proof. So in other words, this is sort of like, wow, this is interesting, cool, but we haven't shown anything, we haven't proven anything. So that's what compelling means. When we say compelling data to a scientist, that's what that means. So Jinje Jia, an associate professor at the Department of Climate and Space Sciences and Engineering at the University of Michigan, basically says that the Galileo data provides compelling independent evidence that there seems to be a plume on Europa. Now, if you're an astrobiologist, this is really exciting news, because if the plume is indeed turned out to be existent and actually there, it could be offer a way for some spacecraft to sample, fly right through it and grab a sample. Okay, because and it saves you the trouble of landing on the surface of Europa. Because it is the current thinking is that Europa is covered, has layers of ice, big icy crust, and underneath the icy crust is ocean, okay, or some sort of liquid water. Okay? So, not surprisingly, NASA is now working on a mission to do just that. So, what are the hints of this plume? At 3,100 kilometers wide, about 1,900 miles, Europa is slightly smaller than our own moon, but scientists think that the satellite of Jupiter, Jovian satellite as it's sometimes called, harbors a huge amount of liquid water, perhaps twice as much as Earth itself has. So basically, the thinking is a deep global ocean, moving about, sloshing about beneath the icy shell. And the thinking is that this ocean appears to be in contact with Europa's rocky core, making possible a variety of interesting and complex chemical reactions. Many astrobiologists regard Europa as one of the solar system's best bet to host extraterrestrial life. The other possibility that astrobiologists look strongly upon is Enceladus, which is a moon of Saturn. And Enceladus also features a subsurface ocean. Near Enceladus' south pole, there's more than 100 individual geysers continually blasting out water ice, basically what they call cryovolcanoes. And the thinking is that in that ice there's also some organic molecules and uh, other materials that does reach out quite a bit into space. And it reaches out far enough into space that some of the stuff makes up Saturn's E ring, which is one of the furthest rings away from the planet's surface. Researchers think that the geyser material is coming from Enceladus's ocean, so flying through that moon's plume provides a possible way to search for signs of life on Enceladus, also without having to touch down on the surface. Let's also recall that the Saturn orbiting Cassini probe flew through Enceladus' plume multiple times, but the spacecraft did not have the appropriate equipment on board to do any of the appropriate testing. Basically, light detection instrumentation. So, back to Europa, evidence is building that Europa may have had Plume as well. In late 2012, Hubble spotted signs of such a feature near the moon's south pole. Something about south poles here, apparently. Further Hubble observations in 2014 and 2016 identified candidate plumes close to Europa's equator. Okay, a different location. In both cases, in the middle of a 200-mile wide, or about 320 kilometers, European hotspot discovered by the Galileo probe. Again, these results are tantalizing. It's not definitive, does not suggest definite existence, but that's what science is. We're going to hopefully go back, get some samples, and get some answers. So, the newly analyzed Galileo data could help solidify evidence for the plume's existence. So now, the analyses are underway. During its time at Jupiter, Galileo performed 11 flybys of Europa. Gia and his team took an in-depth look at information the probe gathered during the closest of these encounters. In 1997 flyby that brought Galileo within 128 miles, 206 kilometers, of the moon's cold but fractured surface. What did the researchers found during that flyby? Galileo detected a significant change in Europa's magnetic field, as well as a brief but big increase in the density of plasma or ionized gas. Both of these observations provide strong evidence of a plume, Gia said, and these lines of evidence are independent of those gathered by Hubble. For example, the 2014-2016 candidate detections, the possible plumes block some ultraviolet light emitted by Jupiter. Basically, referring to a property of water being able to do some polarization. Interestingly enough, Gia and his colleagues also determined that the 1997 candidate plume emanated from the same general hotspot, or thermal anomaly, as the 2014 and 2016 phenomenons. So the new study has been published in the journal Nature Astronomy, and of course this is undoubtedly of great interest to NASA, and the agency is currently in developing a $2 billion Jupiter orbiting mission called Europa Clipper. This is scheduled to launch in the early to mid 2020s, and if everything goes according to plan, Clipper will make 40 to 45 flybys of Europa over the course of its mission, studying the moon's ice shelf and subsurface ocean in an attempt to better understand Europa's potential to contain life. Europa Clipper will also scout out location for a future landing mission, which Congress has directed the space agency to develop as well. Well, Congress actually supporting science. Hell might just freeze over yet after all. NASA officials have also said they'd like Clipper to dive through Europa's putative plumes, if possible, to potentially grab fresh samples of the moon's ocean if plume material is indeed coming directly from the ocean. The evidence gathered to date suggests that the procedure producing Europa's plumes, if they do indeed exist, may not be continuous like the geysers of Enceladus, but instead intermittent. Ephemeral plumes could make it tough to plan sample snagging flybys. But the new results offer some optimism in that regard, Gia said. So now, after all, scientists have now spotted possible plume activity in the same area of Europa multiple times over a 19-year span. And Gia concludes, the general region of the thermal anomaly might have long-lived plume activity. So, just an interesting story I wish to bring to you of some really cool stuff going on out there. Now, this is really tantalizing because let's say they find organic molecules. Okay, organic molecules is not proof of life, but organic molecules, of course, are a prerequisite for life. So the implications of that would be enormous. And if they were indeed able to spot, say, some sort of microbial organism, well, that would be shattering news of the century, or if not of the millennial. Anyway, thank you for your time. We'll talk again soon. Hey folks, just a reminder to please subscribe and click the bell so you know when I drop a video. Please share my videos. Please tell others of my channel and of the work that I do. I also hope that you will consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Science Talk with Jim Massa, where from time to time I upload videos there exclusively for my patron subscribers. Details in the description box below.